What's going on with ya? Big dog, Master Duel Cali here. And of course, it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day, phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Today, I'm going to be going over a Master Duel tier list post-climax of the Showdown. It's going to be really interesting to see where I put these particular strategies and why. And of course, if you disagree, let me know down below in the comment section. I can't wait to read your replies. Also, you can even prove me wrong by submitting your replay in, or right, by submitting your replay in following the instructions in the description. So Abyss Actors are actually getting some really good support that's going to make the deck a lot stronger. The problem with this particular strategy is that I think that it takes a good pilot between that and Xbox crossplay off. Now, the reason why I put it right there is because Abyss Actors have a solid win condition on being able to make your monsters really strong and prevent your opponent from responding to it. But the problem with this strategy is a lot of reasons why you'll steal a ton of wins is because Yu-Gi-Oh! Players aren't going to read that much Yu-Gi-Oh! Text. With that being said, I think if a player knows what he's doing, so in the Diamond or newly Masters rank, then you're not going to be able to steal a lot of W's because eventually they'll figure out what the cards do and figure out the pinpoints to stop. But it is a fairly fun, cool deck. Wish that it was very, very cheap. Adamantimator, I still think is a very, very good enough deck that can steal some W's. Keep in mind, we are getting Bestial monsters, and while Serenir and Magnamut are limited, the Adamantimator strategy really does not care. It summons nothing but earth and wind and water monsters to the side of the field, almost completely dodging all of the Bestial monsters and making a board. Albaz is getting some more support. One thing I want to talk to you guys about is Blazing Cartesia. Blazing Cartesia is the beginning of the end when we're going back into an Albaz format. This strategy could be in really good, but as the format develops, I think players will start to realize that it's probably one of the best decks in the room not named Tier Limit, just because of Blazing Cartesia being another outlet to Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring on Branded Fusion. The deck is a lot more resilient now. Blue Eyes White Dragon, guys. I'm sorry, guys. If you're playing Blue Eyes in 2023, it's an Xbox cross-play all strategy, though there is a really good replay I can't wait to share with you guys about Blue Eyes. And you guys, I think you're going to love what you see about Blue Eyes. It's going to be really, really cool to show you guys how powerful this deck is with the correct player. But overall, I think that this isn't a strategy you should try to take the Masters. Same thing with Dark Magician. These two are Hello Darkness, my old friend type strategies. I know people really do love those old school nostalgic type Yu-Gi-Oh! Strategies, but unfortunately, when it comes to term of power and going against some of the top decks consistently, it's going to be an uphill battle unless you turned your Xbox crossplay off and decide to play the 3 people that play on Xbox. The problem with Dino isn't necessarily really much. Miscellaneous Eris is at 3, which is like, I wish we TCG players could have that, right? And there's some really cool support for Dinos that make it a lot more powerful in the future. But for right now, the biggest problem with Dino is that it doesn't have enough plays to be able to substantiate itself against some of the top decks. Again, I would never say that Dinos is a terrible Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck, just a strategy that's fallen on some times right now, and it's incredibly expensive. Dogmatica does get more support inside of the post-climax of the Showdown with something that we may have gotten information from Decade, but even still, I think that this deck is... It's also a tweener. This is probably one of the Xbox cross playoff decks. Yeah, it's pretty much an Xbox cross playoff deck. I'm not even going to cap to you guys. Sending cards out of your opponent's extra deck to the graveyard, that's kind of cool. Unless you're going against Tier Limit and you're sending Kit Kalos, which they can fuse back into the deck, you're going to need to go full combo plus the Bestial monsters. And your deck's not only weak to Bestial monsters itself, it's just overall not a great deck. Like, it's okay. It's really fun, but not great. Dragons become a deck that are good enough to steal W's with the new Bestial cards. Unfortunately, Magnamut is at 1, but even on top of that, getting your monsters banished, your light and dark monsters with Bestial monsters could pose enough of a problem. But The best thing about Dragon Link is that it can play through a lot of hand traps and still make a board. The new Bestial cards are insane for this deck. I think that Exo Sisters also become a better Yu-Gi-Oh strategy. Actually, I would say that Exo Sisters are really good. In the top tables, I see quite a bit of Exo Sister because it's an excellent strategy to go against Tearlament. With the Bestial monsters, even if your opponent wants to summon Bestial monsters to their side of the field by banishing their own cards, this deck becomes really, really good at being able to handle that. And I think that that's pretty cool. Floowandereeze is 100% good enough to steal Ws, especially when you can open Dimension Shifter. The deck does become worse with a Terraforming ban. So really unfortunate that Terraforming got banned for this particular deck, but I still think that it's a solid Yu-Gi-Oh deck that can compete. Now, I actually have a segment in all of my tier lists where I make really bold takes, and you guys are going to experience one of my bold takes. I think some of the best decks in the game either mesh really, really well with the Bestials, like how Albaz, the branded strategy, can mess well with the Bestials by using Serenir to be able to send branded cards from their deck to the graveyard, but also Lubellion being a fusion target. So that's really good. Same thing with the Chaos Dragon strategy or Dragon Link strategy, using Magma to continuously get you resources is also really good. On the flip side, I think Furhire Runic is actually a lot better than what people are giving you credit. It's a strategy that plays Earth, Wind, Fire, Water. It doesn't play too many Light and Dark monsters for the Bestials to stop. It might be the best version of Runic, but I could be wrong. I could be coping. It could be Donner Mommer getting in my head. It could be me watching Zootopia way too many times. But I would have to say that Furhire is a fairly good strategy because of its non-reliance to Bestials. The Bestial monsters themselves help you disrupt, and they provide level 6 monsters to your side of the field for some cool plays. On top of that, them being dragons, it can also play the other Furhire monsters, which mostly aren't dragons, to be able to make its Furhire plays a little bit more consistently. Goaty, I 100% can't make this lower than good enough to steal W's. This deck's really good. This deck's just really good. Like, it's good. Like, it's good. That's all I can tell you. It's a great Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I love that this deck has had more success in Master Duel than in the TCG, but I do see a time where Goaty does become less of a good strategy. So if you guys are looking towards the future, then this ain't gonna be it. But for right now, if you have Goaty, it's a solid, fun Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Ice Jade's 100% Xbox crossplay off. I've seen some players play this deck really well, so but overall it's not great. I would say that Labyrinths right now are struggle busing with no Labyrinth, Lady Labyrinth of the Silver Castle. This deck will struggle, but this is one of the few decks that has a ton of potential because that one card changes so much for the entire strategy. Once you get Lady Labyrinth, the deck becomes one of the best decks in the game. Madolche is also a strategy that takes a good pilot. It's a solid Yu-Gi-Oh strategy. The Bestial monsters don't hurt it as well. One thing I want to point out about this particular deck, the Ishizu engine was hit, and the Ishizu engine is pretty good for Madolche being able to counter Tearlament. I think that a good pilot would still be able to play it. Personally, I think that this is one of the better Master Duel decks. Another bold take. Marincess is the best Cybers deck in the entire game right now. Mathmech pretty much gets reduced to takes a really good pilot. And it's because the Mathmech strategy is a light deck that literally gets hard countered by Bestial, something that we're expecting everyone to run. Whereas Marincess is a water strategy that plays no light monsters, so can play around it and break boards with Zelantis with ease. We don't have a lot of multi-negation boards, so this deck is really good at being able to break them. Heroes, I think Heroes are in that solid spot, good enough to steal Ws. First turn Dark Law is something that you have to respect. It's a reason why some tier limit players were playing Mass Change 2 to get you into Dark Law, so I'll give that. I think that's solid. Melfi? Just pure Melfi? Yeah, that's a no. That's a no for me, dog. I didn't even know why this is here, but pure Melfi I thought would be a lot stronger with Excel Stardust Synchron. It has some cool combos with that card, but yeah, you're probably better off just playing Sprite. Naturia is also, I think, is incredibly good. Yes, it did lose some Ishizu Shuffler cards, right? But in return, it got Bestial monsters that does not affect this deck. I think that this deck is also another solid deck. It makes you hate Runic a little less. Punter Patrol, 100% right now is good enough to steal W's. Very solid Yu-Gi-Oh deck that I think a lot of players are experimenting with. You don't have to play a Runic build. You can play a Kaiju build and do pretty well. Ironically, Punk gets so much stronger with the Gigantic Champion Sargus. The card it like helps you search Therion. It merges the Punk Therion deck into a better deck. I think that this deck will be good enough to steal W's. I think that it gets way better. Keep in mind, the TCG doesn't even have Chaotic Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. We were using the Gigantic Champion Sargus to search our Therion and make the boards and do all that crazy stuff. Punk can be really good right now. I think it can be a solid deck with Sargus helping mesh that consistency for the strategy alongside of Therion Punk. Rika Still-Am-Eyes are one of the best decks in Master Duel. It's one of the best decks in TCG. This is a strategy that did take a YCS win off of Tier Limit and has a pretty decent match against Tier Limit. If you guys, and there might be some people like, Kelly doesn't know what he's doing, man. Rika's the... Bro, you haven't played against a good Rika player. That's all I can say. I genuinely think that this deck is amazing. Scareclaw, okay, I'm not going to put it in cross-play off, but it definitely takes a really good pilot. When the Vanadium cards come out, this deck will be better, but for right now, it's just hanging in there. Sprite, I think, loses a level. And again, this is based on if Bestial monsters are played more. I think that the Sprite blue to 2 is huge. I think that that's like really impactful, especially since Sprite's biggest weakness was dealing with bigger monsters. Once Sprite has to deal with bigger monsters, it becomes harder for them to play. So now they have to deal with bigger monsters that get rid of their Sprite Blue and Sprite Jet when they need to recover. I think that that is actually just huge for or going against the deck. And that's something that people are going to have to respect. Still a great deck though. Don't get me wrong. Still a great deck. When we get Double Cross and Sprint, maybe this goes back up to really good. But for right now, keep in mind, this deck still doesn't have Double Cross and Sprint for some reason. Swordsoul, it could be me coping. Swordsoul is a great Yu-Gi-Oh deck. The Bestial monsters actually make Swordsoul a little bit better because Magnamut can search Destrudo to allow you to synchro summon in your Yazi and get free wins. It could be me coping, so it could be right here. I think that that's very feasible because it could be me coping. I think the best way to play Swordsoul is not with Protos. I think you just play a ton of hand traps and just play better than your opponent. But, you know. Tier Limit is the top deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! There's no differential. Unfortunately, the ban list does not do enough. And with the Bestial monsters being limited, Magnamut and Jury Swarm, I think that Tier Limit will incorporate the Bestial monsters maybe a little bit less. Maybe they don't want to play Serenair. We know they don't play Lubellion. So they don't get to play as much Bestial. So, and on top of that, they're losing their Ishizu cards, so they're a little less or a little more vulnerable, but still is one of the best decks in the game. Pure Therion is definitely copium, guys. And this goes for Spriggans too. Cyberstein was banned as well. So, you know, I think that that would just take a really good pilot. And the same thing for Tri-Brigade. Basilis is really just a Labyrinth card in disguise. I've never seen a Tri-Brigade player summon Basilis. But it would be cool to see someone in Master Duel abuse Basilis, because that would be crazy. The card is actually really good. But the problem is that getting 3 Tri-Brigade spell cards in your graveyard when Revolt's the only real good one, especially in Master Duel right now, not really easy to do. But that's all for my Master Duel tier list post-climax of the Showdown. Let me know if you think that I got something wrong. Let me know if you don't agree with a particular strategy. Maybe I put something too high or something too low. Regardless, I can't wait to read what you have to say. I'll catch you on the next video.